Hello, passengers. Welcome aboard Long Walk Talks Lost. This is your pilot speaking. My name is David Hensley, and I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions. Tonight, I am joined by my two co-pilots,
Robert Bradford,
Cara Hayes.
And we are continuing our discussion of the TV show Lost, now on the second season, for us at least. The show is long over. But we are doing a 20-year retrospective rewatch of the show. I say that because it's been several weeks since we've done an episode. I think some people maybe might need a recap.
Lots of stuff happened.
It has been busy.
Well, first, weather got in the way. We were in the path of the snowstorm that came through, although it wasn't really so much of a snowstorm here as it was ice. And then all three of us are in a show that opened last week. So that put our release schedule off by a little bit, but we're back. And today we are going to be discussing the next 3 episodes of Season 2 of Lost. 207, The Other 48 Days, 208, Collision, and 209, What Kate Did. And Robert or Cara, either one of you want to talk about what our themed food is? Well, actually, Robert, take what our themed food was supposed to be, and then Cara, what it ended up being.
Yeah, so initially we were going to do something. We were like, all right, this is an episode that features a guy getting impaled on a wooden spike or a wooden stake as part of the conflict. And we're like, oh, let's do kebabs, get everybody over and do some rice and some meat, some veggie kebabs and all that. And then, as David mentioned, there was a lot going on, and I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to buy the different meats and arrange them, but I can buy frozen kebabs or something, and we can heat those up. And then, as the day that we were planning to do this just went on and on, we'd been moving stuff from a storage unit to the performance space for something like 6 hours. And I went to Cara, and I was like, Cara, what is the easiest food on a stick that there is? And you came up with
Motherfucking corn dogs.
Corn dogs. So we stopped at Cookout on the way back to my place and just all got corn dogs and then just ate them while we watched. They
were the best fucking corn dogs. I was so hungry.
It really was, because prior to this, our themed meals had been like, here's this nice restaurant that we all chose collectively and ordered from, or here's this nice meal that Robert prepared for us. And now it's like, we went to fucking Cookout. We got a bunch of corn dogs. It was great, and then we vegged out on the couch in Robert's living room and watched these next 3 episodes, which we're now going to discuss.
I'm surprised none of us fell asleep, honestly.
I'm not going to lie to you, I was sort of nodding off during What Kate Did. And considering that was 2 weeks ago, I had every intention of watching these episodes again, but God, it's been a busy 2 weeks. So
usually I don't jot my notes down until the day or so before we're recording, but thankfully I did make my notes earlier this time because if I didn't have a chance to look back on these, I'd be struggling right now.
I'm just gonna wing it.
Yeah, I was rereading these notes earlier today in preparation for this, and I was like, why did I write that? Oh, right, I remember now. Okay. So picking up where we left off last time, episode 206 ended with Shannon running through the woods only to get shot by Ana Lucia.
Woo!
And there was much rejoicing.
You mean heartbreak? Heartbreak over...
Depends on which couch I might have been sitting on.
Bit of one, some of the other.
Yeah. So picking up with episode 207, The Other 48 Days, which take place on days 1 through 48.
Really?
Exactly what it says on the tin.
That's the easiest explanation that we get on the show. I mean, there are times when they flat out say, it's been 44 days, but here it's explicitly here's day 1, here's day 5, all the way up until day 48, which is the longest fucking day. We're going to get to that by the time we get to episode 209, but we thought the end of season 1 into the beginning of season 2 was long. It feels like day 48 goes on for fucking ever.
It will be interesting, once we're through the end of this, to figure out which is the longest span of episodes to only cover one day's events. Because you've got some episodes that literally cover thousands of years, but I'm there's got to be... I want to say towards the end of season 5, you get a whole chunk of time that's just over the course of 6 hours built around, the incident in the Dharma Initiative.
Yeah, well, briefly before we dive into the episode-specific discussion, earlier today, as I was waiting for my time to run out at work, I was like, surely somebody out there, somebody on the internet put together a comprehensive chronological list of every day and what happened on it, including like the flashbacks, right? Yeah, Lostpedia has a comprehensive breakdown of events pre-island, the first 100 and something days on the island, all the way up until the point where it diverges off, and you've got the off-island stuff when they finally get off, and the on-island stuff for the people who got stuck there. Then you've got the past stuff.
You've got the time jumping.
Yeah, the time skipping, which is concurrent with 2007 on-island stuff, and then the divergent, like, is it heaven timeline.
Somebody has entirely too much time.
Yeah. The only now I've said before I never wanted to use Lostpedia as a way of like prompting discussions because I mean that feels like cheating. However, through going through like all of the pre-island stuff all the way up until day 2 on the island is how I discovered. If you guys had to guess, how old do you think Hurley is? The character Hurley, not the actor.
I think he's like 19.
I would say 28, 29 maybe.
Cara's closest. In the show's chronology, Hugo Reyes was born in 1983, making him 21 years old on the show.
Wow.
How old was Jorge Garcia when they started filming?
I have no idea. But he is the same age as both Shannon and Claire.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
21, really?
1983 was a big year for the Losties.
Could he even could he have legally bought that lottery ticket? Yeah, okay, so Jorge Garcia, I just checked, was born in 1973, so he is a full decade older than Hurley.
Yeah.
I'm almost his age.
What a weird decision, because creators have always been pretty upfront about the fact that they rewrote a lot of their initial character ideas based around who got cast and how people did when they auditioned, so yeah, what a strange decision.
Yeah, I don't know.
He does kind of have that, awkward kind of youngish person, especially somebody who, may not have been as popular or, stuff.
Yeah. Sawyer is supposed to be like a full 10 years older than Kate.
Oh,
He is, and as of the 2004 crashing on the island, Sawyer is supposed to be 36 years old.
Oh,
I can buy that. Josh Holloway has sort of a weathered look to him.
Yeah.
true. And he still looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
But these are all things that I'm sure will come up later. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but if the two of you get curious, like I said, it took me just my last half hour at work to cover everything pre-island crash up to the start of day 2 on the island.
Wow.
So it's comprehensive, to say the least.
I found a Google Doc that I made where, I took the side-by-side of what's going on for the tail section, what's going on for the main cast, and on each of the days depicted, and be okay, so when Ana Lucia is digging the pit, okay, that's around the same time that, nothing, that's a week they skipped. That was a bad example to pick. But when they tail section, when they make their camp in the jungle, that's when Ethan is making his move to abduct Claire. Or, let's see, Michael and Locke save Walt from a polar bear the same day that Ana Lucia kills Goodwin. So there's not a lot of thematic matchup, and I looked through trying to see if there was some kind of really cool parallel, and no, it's mostly just stuff happened at the same time.
Well, as the title of the episode implies, this episode takes place over the previous 48 days, but from the point of view of the tail section survivors, aka the tailies. So we get to relive the crashing of the plane, the midair breakup, and we get one of the classic tropes / cliches in literature, which is save the cat, except in this case it's Mr. Echo saving the children. If you've never heard the expression before, save the cat is a screenwriting term for how do you immediately endear a character to the audience. You want an audience to like this guy? Okay, first time you see him, he's saving some little girl's cat from a tree.
Or, even better, a dog.
Or a dog, yeah.
Cats are fine.
They're fine.
No shade.
But here we see, Mr. Echo, one of his first priorities upon waking up was to get the children out of the water and start doing CPR, or get Ana Lucia to start doing CPR. Robert, you had a good note here.
Yeah, so initially when we were watching it, because Ana Lucia is just basically placing one hand on the girl's chest and pressing down, and given that this show has a long history of not strictly accurate depiction of this technique, I was prepared to just kind of chalk that one up too, but no, actually, that is the correct technique. I don't think the way she's doing it is exactly right, but you are supposed to use less pressure for a smaller body. So like for an adult, you use both hands. For a kid, you use one, and for like an infant, you only use your fingertips. So
stupid children and their inferior sternums.
Yeah, come on, nothing is stopping you from getting older faster.
Robert, what is the explain the fan theory that you put in the notes here?
So after Echo helps like get other survivors out of the water and like does what he can to tend to them, he takes off the jacket he's wearing, because he's wearing a black suit and a white shirt. We don't see his collar, but he's wearing like the remnants of his priest outfit. He takes off his jacket, goes back into the water, and brings the bodies out of the people who drowned or were killed when the tail section hit the water, and buries them on the beach. And one of the bodies we get a glimpse of is a man in a suit floating face down. And it's a popular fan theory that may have been Christian Shepherd's body, because as someone points it, when you drown, you don't immediately float back to the surface. But if a corpse that's been dead for several days is in the water, it's more buoyant. And it also explains why Jack found an empty coffin, even though the show has explained that, the man in black taking someone's form doesn't get rid of the original body. So it closes a plot hole that we kind of talked about and explains, okay, so Echo just pulled what he thought was a body out of the water, buried it on the beach, and that's where Christian Shepherd ended up being laid to rest, while the man in black is walking around looking like him.
Interesting.
Just a fan theory, no corroboration from the show, but it makes sense.
It does.
Yeah, I like it.
We're still too early in the show's run. Like, they had not figured out so much of this stuff, like, that there were rules around the man in black impersonating people. But I do love this theory. I think over the last 20 years, fans have put more thought into the lore and background of the show than the creators did.
Yeah. And I made a note of that further down, but also it's interesting that given their really intense encounters with the others for their 48 days, it does not seem that anybody in the tail section ever encountered the monster or the man in black, that they didn't seem to hear the sounds of the jungle or see visions of any dead people for their time on that side of the island.
That is curious.
Yeah, he was too busy terrorizing the Beachies, whatever you want to call them, the A-team.
Seems like he just kind of quickly cottoned on to Locke and Jack as like his potential, the people that he could use the most. Mm-hmm. And eventually he's going to get his eye on Echo too, but we've got that to look forward to.
Yeah, but only once Echo makes his way to the other side of the island.
Yeah.
So for this episode, there is no central character, as there are for most of them. Like in the season 1 finale, we got multiple flashbacks for different characters, but they all seemed like centric on that character. And the majority of the episodes have one character that they're themed around. I'd have to look back, but I think at this point it's either Kate or Jack that we've had the most episodes of, most flashback episodes. They might be tied.
Yeah, Todd or Jack is ahead. I think he might have gotten there, but if not, he's going to be ahead by the end of the season.
Yeah. Instead, this episode serves as flashbacks for all of the other characters, and they're 48 days. There's no better way to keep saying that. Yeah. I'm going to move on. Among those tailies that we are introduced to and get to know is Goodwin, everyone's favorite Goodwin. The tail section survivor that is totally maneuvered to be set up to be like the Jack of the tailies, right? He's charismatic. Everyone seems to like him and gravitate towards him. He's the only person that Ana Lucia seems to listen to and accept advice from. And oh yeah, he's totally one of the others.
Yeah.
Great reveal when you find that out, because it's in hindsight, it's a little painfully obvious that the other guy, what was that dude's name?
Nathan.
Yeah. It's a little too obvious in hindsight that he was a red herring. His name sounds so much like Ethan. He's from Canada. No one can remember him being on the plane. The tailies don't have the benefit of having the manifest to figure it out.
But they do have someone who worked for the airline, whose whole job is to pay attention to who's on the plane.
Yeah, which leads us to one of the stewardesses that had interacted. Actually, she was the one who gave Jack his bottles of liquor that he had on him when he crashed. Cindy at one point outright says that she doesn't remember Nathan and being on the plane, and that she's very good with faces, while standing directly next to Goodwin, who was, we'll say again, not on the fucking plane, Cindy.
Cindy sucks.
She does.
It's a nice moment. It's kind of like there's a classic Twilight Zone episode. I think it's called The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, where like a neighborhood experiences a power outage and sees some weird lights in the sky. And they quickly come to think that somebody among them might be an alien. It's the Twilight Zone, so it happens fast. But like the whole reveal of it is the end. The aliens are there, but all they've done is just turn the lights on and off, and they let the community turn on itself. Otherwise, they don't have to do anything else except just let people talk themselves into, oh, well, we all know how that person is, or, well, I didn't see him do that. And so, yeah, we get a lot of everybody very quickly be like, yeah, I didn't see him. I didn't see him either. It's like, well, I mean, I haven't been on a plane in a while, but if I could pick more than like one person out of a lineup like a day or two later, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, seriously. I
couldn't even pick out the flight attendants.
No, I could look at the person directly next to me if I'm not related to them a few days on the island and be like, and you know what? I don't remember you being on the fucking plane.
You're sitting right next to me.
Robert, you put in a good note here above that I accidentally skipped over, the scattered appearance of the others.
Yeah, so we see the others just kind of persistently targeting and harassing the tail section when Ethan is the only individual other that we see in all of the first season up till the finale. And now we get kind of the explanation. It's because, well, the tail section was the one that they focused on. That, Ethan targeted Claire because she was pregnant, and we find out eventually that the others do have an interest in pregnant women on the island. But whatever candidates or whatever purpose the others have, the tail section was their higher priority.
And I think it's because they landed closer to Hydra Island, the other island, like home of Other Village. What would we end up naming that place? I can't remember.
Oh,
Otherton?
Otherton, yeah. It was a shorter distance for them to abduct people and take them back over to. I can't remember if that's the canonical explanation or not, but I think it makes the most sense. Because it's going to be a minute before anyone else even knows about Other Island.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. Robert, talk for a minute about poor Nathan.
Yeah, so the thing that hits Nathan is that the two things that really throw up a flag for him and Ana Lucia's suspicions is that once they realize that they're being kidnapped, they set up a rule that they only go out in pairs. So if you go to the bathroom, somebody else has to go with you. And Nathan breaks this rule and just comes back in the jungle alone. And later, after Ana Lucia throws him in a pit and is like, I didn't see you on a plane, he explains, well, I was in the bathroom the whole time. So, yeah, poor bastard just got wrongly targeted and eventually murdered because he just was so embarrassed about his persistent diarrhea.
Yeah. It's a terrible time to have IBS.
Every time is a terrible time.
There's a shirt that I keep seeing online that says IBS, I be shitting.
That's, yes, accurate.
So at one point, again, it's been like 2 weeks since we watched this. Is it Goodwin that asks Ana Lucia, do you have kids? I'm pretty sure it's when they have their little powwow right before she kills him. I think he asks her, do you have kids, Anna?
Yeah, when they're making small talk and carving fruit.
He's the only one who calls her Anna and not Ana Lucia. But we're going to find out in the very next episode that no, she doesn't, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cliche at this time, even by 2005 standards. But anyway, and we'll touch on that in the next episode. I wrote down here, Goodwin, snapping children and children. Freudian slip. Goodwin, snapping chicken and Nathan necks. There's this whole comedy bit where comedy. Yeah, it was funny to me where the tailies are chasing a chicken around. Where the fuck did that thing come from? We've never seen chickens on the island before. Only wild boar and a polar bear.
So the chicken.
I mean, that does leave a pretty broad range of possibilities.
I think it was a stowaway in the cargo section of the plane. Because you just never know.
It needs its own flashback.
The sad end of that chicken from Moana.
Yeah. Oh, hey, hey. Oh, I loved Hey, hey.
I mean, if this had been a Rocky movie, that would have been the start of a good montage, is all of the tailies getting into shape trying to catch the chicken. They do it with relative ease compared to Sylvester Stallone. And then snap its neck. Much like later, Ethan is going to snap... Ethan... Good one is going to snap Nathan's neck. Poor shit-filled bastard.
I love
Shit
that
sack.
the main reason he does it is just like he was like, okay, Anna was about to start torturing him, so if he keeps up his story after being tortured, then that's going to get inconvenient for me, so he's got to die now.
It's an extra twist to the knife, though, that he like gains Nathan's trust and helps him out of the hole that he's in, and like points him in the direction of the beach and tells him to go, only to then like Nathan makes it 2 steps before Goodwin grabs him and snaps his neck. And he was probably thinking about how nice it's going to be to take a shit in the woods and not in this hole in the ground.
That hole was 2 feet deeper when Anna threw him in there.
Oh. I only wrote down one. We get a couple of nice setups here. When the tailies find their own hatch, they have the good fortune of finding the door to their hatch and not having to blow it open. We find inside, the tailies find a glass eye, which is a fun little setup that won't pay off for another season of Mikhail. And
I forgot about him.
That's also where Echo finds the Bible. Mm-hmm. That we don't see what he finds inside yet. But that will be the next episode or 2 episodes. I can't remember which.
Yeah, 2 episodes.
Yeah. And then the last note that I took for this episode, so feel free to jump in if you have any thoughts after this. Kate and Ana Lucia, the low-rise jeans and tank top mafia.
I feel like that's just how you signal like woman of action on the island compared to like Shannon or Claire, who have more like traditionally feminine attire. That you signal that Kate and Ana Lucia, they're the ones to watch out for.
That's the required outfit for badass women.
Mm-hmm. And Saeed.
And Saeed.
Well, I mean,
he wears a good tank top.
Yeah,
he does. There's not a whole lot of tank tops on the show. It's primarily just the 3 of them. I do imagine it was very easy on the costume designers, though, to see that, like, Michelle Rodriguez and Evangeline Lilly were roughly the same size, and just be like, oh, well,
buy a 2-pack.
Wear the same tank tops and low-rise jeans. It'll be fine. We've got some more. Robert, you had some more notes on this episode here.
Yeah, so we hear the other half of the transmission that Boone sent in his second to last episode, just before he died. And we find out that Bernard heard it, and then Ana Lucia immediately switched off the radio, convinced it was a trick. So, yeah, sorry, Boone, even your last heroic sacrifice ended up being kind of pointless. But there's also, so Echo, for most of the flashback, is keeping silent, because he kills 2 others who try to abduct him the first night, and then doesn't speak until 40 days later, when Ana Lucia breaks down, kind of crying after killing Nathan.
Michelle Rodriguez is terrible at fake crying.
Yeah, she's a really, really good, like, tough lady actress, but yeah, the vulnerability, it works best as something that's just kind of glimpsed in the corner of her eye and not like full-on emotional breakdown. But we're getting a lot of, in addition to Echo wearing priest clothes when he comes out of the water, the idea of 40 is the number 40 is associated with sort of spiritual cleansing in the Judeo-Christian tradition, like the flood from the story of Noah's Ark. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights to cover the earth.
Moses in the desert, or somebody in the desert?
When the Israelites leave Egypt on the way to the Promised Land, but tick off God with that whole golden calf thing, they wander in the desert for 40 years before they're allowed to enter.
40 years.
There are other ones. The other big famous one is the story of Jesus being tempted by Satan in the desert. It happened when he was out fasting for 40 days. So, yeah, they're definitely leaning on the spirituality of Echo as a character pretty heavily in these episodes.
I'm glad you know these sort of things. I had no idea. All right, Cara, any other thoughts about the other 48 days before we move on?
No.
Ana Lucia has already cemented herself as the new Shannon, though, hasn't she?
Yeah, because I need to count the number of episodes I have until she dies.
It's a really fun thing you can do in a genre show where you can take your characters who are set up in this particular kind of circumstance and then introduce another set of characters who had similar circumstance but worse, and have them kind of bounce off each other. Probably my favorite example of that is Battlestar Galactica, where you've got like this one warship defending all that's left of humanity from a army of evil robots, and then midway through the second season, they find out, actually, no, there's another warship out there, and those guys have really gone crazy. And it's always fun to just be like, okay, if, the main survivors we've been following just had some advantages in the way they started out that the Tailaways just didn't. And, man, it's really sad to see what happened to those folks in the meantime.
Yeah, there's a lot fewer tailies than there are beachies. I don't know if that's the appropriate nomenclature, but that's what I'm going with.
I don't remember them doing much with, like, Libby and Bernard being just, like, shocked at how lax things are when they get back to the main group. Like, who do you guys have on watch tonight? What do you mean? Like, watching the jungle. Why would we have someone watching the jungle? Are you crazy? What about the people out there? But there are no people. Oh, yeah, there was that one guy who came one time and, like, broke every bone in one guy's body. Shoot, yeah, wow, forgot about that.
They forgot about poor Scott.
Steve?
Or Steve, whichever one it was. Well, that's a nice lead-in to episode 208, Collision, which is, again, more of day 48, and it's an Ana Lucia episode, Cara. The character we've all been dying to know more about, especially Shannon. Shannon is just dying to find out more.
She really is.
Special guest star Maggie Grace.
Yeah, who just got the easy part, got to lie there and be dead for the whole episode. Robert, you want to take this first part?
Yeah, so there is just a glorious thing that this show is going to do, and this is our first real taste of it, is anytime you introduce a character as being sort of physically dangerous, they at some point have to throw down with Saeed. So we've established Echo as, he killed two others with, like, a rock when they tried to abduct him. We saw him wipe the floor with Jen, Sawyer, and Michael. And so, yeah, when this episode starts, Saeed is charging at Ana Lucia, but Echo's the one who tackles him, and they have just a great little throwdown in the mud before I think Ana Lucia hits him from behind right as he's about to, like, get the gun turned around on Echo. But yeah, man, that just got me thinking of, like, we're gonna see Saeed versus Mikhail, Saeed versus Kimi, Saeed versus that one guy whose leg he breaks with his neck, or whose neck he breaks with his legs.
That sounds much easier than the first thing you said.
Yeah, I think Jack Bauer did that on one season of 24, but
so the first note that I took here was, I'm starting to think Ana Lucia's leadership needs work.
Oh, yeah.
This is the episode where it all falls apart for her, because it does not take Libby and Bernard long and Echo as well, to turn on her. Leading by force only gets you so far. And like Robert was saying, talking about the differences between the main cast and the tailies, Jack's approach to leadership and Ana Lucia's are very, very different. Robert, you put a very interesting note here that I like. The conversation that Ana Lucia has with Saeed, this throughout the episode, but especially like at one point she is like they're basically interrogating each other, trying to suss information out of each other. And Saeed is a way better interrogator than Ana Lucia is a cop.
Yeah. Like, he's tied to a tree and she's, got a gun on him, and he's just, giving out some information about himself, but mainly just getting her to open up. Like, he's very much the one with the power in that situation.
He earned his tank top.
He really did, and she didn't.
She just does not deserve a tank top.
Somebody should take that tank top away from her, and it's going to be Sawyer in like another 15 episodes.
Well,
in flashbacks, we see Ana Lucia's time as a LAPD officer and how bad she was at it. She nearly shoots a guy over a television. I mean, the domestic abuse had something to do with it as well.
Yeah, we find out that she was a bad cop because, well, something that happened back when she was an entirely different kind of bad cop.
Yeah.
She was not quick enough to draw her gun one time, so now she is way too quick to draw her gun all the time.
Yeah. Well, a solid 7 years before we're going to see him as Abraham on The Walking Dead, we get special guest star Michael Cudlitz as Ana Lucia's partner. It took me a few seconds of looking at those glorious red locks before I was like, holy fuck, that's why I know the name Michael Cudlitz. Cara, your thoughts on our special guest star?
Oh my God, I loved him so much on Walking Dead. Like, when that whole episode happened with Negan, like, that was one of the times I just sobbed my little eyes out. I don't do that very often, but that was one of.
And one of the reasons Katie and I quit watching that show.
I gave up a little while before that, but yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing where I was just like, that was... the only arc for everybody is, when is your character going to die?
Yeah, and that stops being fun after a while. But back to a show where everyone totally lives for perfectly fine reasons.
Unless they're already dead.
Hey, we're going to get to that in a little bit. This is, in my opinion, the beginning of the useless side plots. They really run out of what other thing can be happening during this episode, because the B plot to the majority of this episode is Jack golfing. Most of it with Kate.
We do get a scene of really amazing double entendres where I meant to write them down, but just they're talking, like, Kate's asking how many holes, and I think Jack's talking about the length of his swing, and like the writers were getting their stuff in for that.
She's fondling his golf balls.
I mean, the real purpose of it is to get them out randomly in the jungle for when Echo arrives, and then. Also, I think they meant to kind of tease up more of the romance between Jack and Kate while Sawyer was away on the raft, and so that when Sawyer is suddenly reintroduced, that changes everything. But they sort of forgot to, so now they're quickly back in like, flirt, and Sawyer's back mode.
Yeah. Not a great subplot. It kind of ruins the tension of the whole being trapped on a desert island with people trying to kill you thing, when you can just take time off to go golfing. It worked earlier in season 1 because they needed a distraction. Everyone needed a reason to have fun. Here, it just... it does not work as a B-plot, in my opinion. Call me crazy.
No.
Robert, being the more literary literate of all of us, explain the importance, please, of... And, Cara, I think you brought this up as well, the Gilgamesh crossword answer?
Yeah, so when Echo arrives in the hatch to carry Sawyer back there for treatment, Locke is on button watch, and he's doing a crossword, and we see him filling in the answer, which I think is Gilgamesh's friend, and the answer is Enkidu. So, just old nerd thing. The Epic of Gilgamesh is basically one of the oldest, like, epic stories that we have in archaeology. It comes out of Mesopotamia. It's like, I think 4,000 or 5,000 years old. But it's sort of the first, like, heroic story we have before the Odyssey, the Iliad, before all these other kind of ancient defining works of just human storytelling. And I just noted it here because the story is, like, Gilgamesh is this great hero and human king, and Enkidu is like a wild man who starts out as his enemy, but the two become friends and companions. And then when Enkidu is killed, he's struck down by the gods, Gilgamesh is motivated by this desire to become immortal because he can't stand the fact that his, like, great friend is just gone from life forever. So there's this whole search for immortality and quest into the underworld, and it kind of, I think, teases out where they probably meant for the story of Locke and Echo to go. And I think we get a bit of that in season 3 before Echo is written out of the show, but as someone who will always wonder what the plan was with Echo and what a show where he stuck around for like 3 or 4 seasons would have looked like, that felt like a big breadcrumb to me.
I gotcha. Thank you for that explanation. All of that is so much more interesting than what happens in this episode. This is one of the more fun notes I've taken, I think, because we all had the same reaction or similar here. As Ana Lucia's leadership is falling apart, she concocts this plan where she's just going to go off by herself, and she wants a gun and, like, what is it, like a change of clothes and some
like a
food.
backpack, and yeah.
And I can't remember if it's Libby or Bernard who try to caution her against being alone on the island. And she turns and looks at them, and she goes, in that Michelle Rodriguez emotionless but trying way, "I'm already alone." All 3 of us were like, "Oh, fuck." And I just wrote in my notes, "Shut the fuck up."
I don't know why the angst of some characters in this show is so engaging and compelling to me, and for other people, I just want them to stop. Sawyer, every time he like broods over his letter, I'm just like, oh man, what a tragic and complicated guy. Or anytime,
Echo.
Yeah, there's so many characters who do this well, but man.
Well, it depends on what level of sympathy we've already garnered for the character, and a lot of that is dependent on their backstory. This is a show that gives its characters very rich and interesting backstories. We love Sawyer because his past is fucking tragic. We love Locke because his past is tragic. Same with Jack, same with so many other characters, but then you get people like Kate, who it's very hard to sympathize with because it's just so cliche. And here we're running into the same problem already with Ana Lucia because her backstory, she was a cop. She got shot. They catch the guy. They give her the opportunity to identify him in a lineup, at which point he'll be arrested, but no, she wants her revenge. So she says, no, that wasn't the guy, and he gets released. So she follows him to a bar, and then out of the bar, where she reveals she was pregnant when she got shot. So she kills him in retaliation. It's just like, fucking hell, I've seen this movie
100 times.
I think there is an issue with how something terrible happened to her, but that's the thing. It just happened to her. It's not like in Sawyer's case, something terrible happened to him as a kid, but the tragedy for him comes from who he became when he grew up. It's not like Sawyer just had a bad thing happen, so feel sad for him. It's a bad thing happened to him, and he became the same type of person. That's where what makes him gripping and compelling. And in the same way that Saeed, is trying to leave behind a past of violence and torture. But yeah, with Ana Lucia, it's just a terrible thing happened to her, and she took her violent revenge, and there's not really any reason to think there's anything more complicated than that.
And I think it's going to be an ongoing problem. Cara, you might have more to speak to this than I would, but I think it's going to be an ongoing problem for the female characters on this show, that so many of their backstories rely heavily on cliches that they don't do anything with. Here it's, I was pregnant and I got shot and lost the baby and now I'm out for revenge. Evangeline, Kate, it's, oh, my stepfather / real father was abusive, so I blew him up and now I'm on the run. It's like, Claire, I got pregnant at a young age and my baby daddy didn't want me, or want the baby. We're not getting the same sort of depth that we are with the other male characters, and that's kind of endemic of the entire show. What your thoughts on that? Disagreement?
No, I mean, I think, at least with what we know so far, I mean, I think Sun to a point is a little different, but she still has that cliched, she's in a terrible marriage and her husband, does all this terrible stuff and he doesn't treat her right and he treats her like a servant and this and that. So yeah, I mean, the very little that we know about Bernard and Rose, that's the cop. I mean, those are the people that don't have that kind of whack ass backstory. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, even Shannon, I just didn't have any sympathy for her. Oh, a little rich girl doesn't have any money anymore.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, okay, it sucks how your dad died, but, shit happens.
Yeah. Do better 20 years ago, Lost writers. Come up with, how about this? Hire a female staff writer.
Nah.
That was a bridge too far in 2005, and hell, for all we know, still a bridge too far in 2025. But along the same lines as the collective groan we all got, or maybe this one was just me, but when the flashback, when she's at the bar waiting for the dude to leave, the song that's playing on the soundtrack is Stained Outside. The next thing, the song Outside. Specifically on the chorus, I'm on the outside, I'm looking in, I can see through you, I see your true colors. And I was like, God damn, guys. That was a bit on the nose. There's on the nose, and then there's that.
This was like up the nose. I mean, it. Oh my God!
We'll have a Charlie episode before too long.
Well, yeah, true.
This is the episode where we get another Dead All Along check-in. While Ana Lucia is having her beleaguered conversation with Saeed about things like revenge and who deserves to live and whatnot, and whether or not he's just going to kill her if she lets him free, Saeed says, "Why should I kill you if we're all already dead?" Oh, are they? They're not. But I get it.
But I love that we're tracking this. Like,
Yeah.
this is just fun.
Yeah. And then there's the ending of the episode, which gives us so many great reunions. Katie wasn't able to watch this episode with us, but this is the only part that I showed her. Because she had mentioned last time when they revealed that Bernard was one of the tail section survivors after so much setup from Rose about her husband, Bernard. Katie in that episode was like, please tell me right now that they get together again, right? So I put this episode on and skipped to the end so she could see this montage. First, we get Michael and Vincent being reunited on the beach.
Aww.
Hey, go boy.
Yes. After Walt gave Vincent to Shannon to keep an eye on, and then Shannon went and got herself shot running through the jungle.
Because she lost the dog.
Yeah. Vincent now has another owner.
Yay.
And then the best, in my opinion, couples on the island get together again. Jin and Sun and Bernard and Rose. It's so sweet, so sugary sweet, so romantic.
There is an art to hugging someone like that on camera and just positioning your arms in a way that just says, literally, I would just, like, if I could just lock onto you for 3 hours, I would. Oh man, just the way Yunjin Kim and just like throws herself into Daniel Day Kim's arms is just so beautiful and sweeping.
And then the way that the two actors playing Rose and Bernard, just the look in their eyes, the communication that you see pass between them before they hug is so sweet that it made me want to kick something. Like that's the only responsible response to that. Seeing something that sweet is just to go and find something to kick.
Thank you for not kicking me or Robert.
You're welcome. And then we all got a kick out of this. Echo ends up leading Jack out into the forest. Jack is all determined to go out there and find out what happened and get revenge for Sawyer being shot and everything.
Echo no-selling Jack's attempt to like intimidate him is just hilarious. It's like, anything I say is going to make you angry, so I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, and he also like manages to talk Jack down from just grabbing all the guns from the hatch and going out there and likely shooting the place up. It's okay because Michael's going to do that for him later. So Echo leads Jack into the forest where he encounters Ana Lucia and recognizes her. Well, he had previously heard the name and remembered her from the airport, but when he sees her, Matthew Fox gives the most perfect I dodged a bullet face upon like realizing the havoc that she has wrought upon all of these people. And I'm sure that maybe it was supposed to be like, oh my God, it's you. I remember you from the airport. But instead, Matthew Fox is just like, whew, God, I am glad I didn't fuck you in an airport bathroom.
Because how awkward would this meetup be?
Yeah.
Or re-meetup.
But if we're going to move on from Jack's perfectly timed expressions to episode 209, What Kate Did. Guys, is this the worst episode title?
I still think All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues is worse, just mainly because I hated having to keep saying that when we talked about it.
Oh, see, I think that's the best episode title of the show's run.
Agreed. Cowboy daddies.
Yeah, I don't think they ever topped.
Or daddy cowboys.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think they ever bottomed it either.
Well, I like this one. It's descriptive. It's to the point. It's punchy. If I was a newspaper editor, I'd be like slamming my fist on the table, being like, "This is what I want."
what Kate did.
And
Yeah, no, gross.
I now know, thanks to reading about this episode and looking into it, this is an obscure reference to a children's book from England called "What Kate Does."
Wow.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Very obscure reference. It was about a little girl named Kate who loved horses and wanted to go horseback riding, but then
Whoa.
but then she got paralyzed and had to.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Could we? Well,
And then it's the next book is what Kate did next, and she has to learn to walk again.
Holy
And then
shit.
The next one's Kate, what? Kate's getting married. I don't know, something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's fucked up. So anyway, that's where the title "What Kate Did" comes from. If you're interested in looking it up. But we move on to day 49, you guys. We're finally fucking past day 48.
Yay.
In fact, we're finally past their very long no good week.
Yeah, it's been
Not even a week. We're finally past their very bad no good 5 days.
yeah, it's 5 days since the Rasp launched, right?
Yes,
Thereabouts?
5 days. We finally we're getting past that. We're moving on, and you guys, Jin and Sun totally fucked.
Well,
Yeah.
Saeed wasn't going to be using that tent anymore, so
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can't let a good sex tent go to waste. One of the first things we see in the episode is Jin walking out of him and Saeed's tent.
Whoa. Him and Saeed.
Oh my God! Sorry, Jin and Sun.
if they had to bring somebody in for a third,
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he's heartbroken. He needs somebody to cheer him up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's plenty of fan fiction out there with that exact same scenario.
the stuff that Jin can do with fish spikes and that Sun can do with herbs, yeah.
Jesus, Robert.
I didn't write fan fiction about this show. You couldn't find it on fanfiction.net.
God. Well, the note that I took here was specifically Jin's abs. We can't not mention them.
no.
Because,
Yeah, they can. Looking good.
Yeah, very much so. Any man or woman on this show stuck on that island would be lucky to have him. Robert, you put a note in here.
Yeah, just that, we talked a little bit last episode about how they do kind of perv on Evangeline Lilly a lot with their shower scene. But, in this episode, we get, or in this set of episodes, I think we get Echo shirtless, as he's doing his thing in the other 48 days. We get Sawyer shirtless and, all vulnerable and needing to be taken care of. And, yeah, you get shirtless and apparently quite satisfactory Jin if Sun's face is anything to go by. So, they give the ladies and the gents of a certain persuasion a little something this episode.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
Well, as the title implies, this is another Kate episode. I mentioned a while back when we had our last Kate-centric episode that I didn't need to know anything more about her.
And yet you're gonna.
And here we're gonna find out more. And one of the first things we get is Kate's horse.
Of course.
Of course. I had forgotten that this was even a thing until it showed up on screen, and I was like, oh yeah, Kate's horse. I wrote it in all caps in the notes.
Island symbolism animals.
Yeah, I don't know. I wrote it in the notes, and I don't know what to say about Kate's horse.
It was a thing.
Like
It
a
happened.
lot of stuff in Kate episodes, it feels like the foundation for a much stronger character arc, like her connection to this creature that, is meant to be free and to be running, that it's, not like you can, try to contain it, but it's ultimately the thing it is best to do is just to keep charging forward without looking to either side.
It can't be tamed.
Yeah, I was trying not to go explicitly in that direction, but that's the common the horse, the freedom imagery of it. And again, if they'd written that into just who Kate was from episode to episode, that could mean a lot. But there's no connective tissue between who she is on the island. I think I said in the episode where she gets outed, I was like, the story of Kate is someone who, for the first time since she became a fugitive, finally has a community on the island, people she can be with and doesn't have to worry about being arrested or dragged away or having to run. Could be really interesting. They just don't really do anything with that. And yeah, the same thing with Kate is someone who for the first time can be in one place and just be okay. And the idea of this horse that's just still out in the jungle, reminding her of who she used to be. A lot of potential there. Just it doesn't really land because they just haven't done the connective work on the episodes that aren't about her to make that land.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, it does give us another good guest star. We've had a good run so far, and we're going to have another one here with Diane Jensen, a.k.a. Aunt Zelda from Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yay.
I'm glad you guys pointed that one out because I did not recognize her.
Wow.
She gets a little more to do this episode after I think the last Kate flashback. She's just lying in a hospital bed, and all she basically gets to do is say Kate's name and then scream.
Yeah, there's a lot of that throughout the show. Hey guys, Jen finally loses the other half of the handcuff. Yeah. I'm sure Daniel Day Kim was ecstatic to not have to put that on before every day of filming. And this is the episode that gives us Jack and Kate's first kiss. I thought it was important enough to put in the notes, but now I don't remember the circumstances behind it, like what builds up to it.
Sawyer seems to start talking in the voice of her dead step/real dad, and tries to choke her. I think at one point she goes running out and both leaves the button unattended, and also Sawyer just lying on the ground. So Jack chases her out to find out what the deal is, and she's it's kind of a cliche term to use to describe a woman, but she is hysterical and screaming, and Jack tries to do that thing where you calm someone down by just grabbing their arms and pulling them close to you, which...
Yes, women love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a great way to get a knee to the groin, but instead, no, Kate just kind of kisses him and then runs off. So, yeah.
Wily women. What are we going to do with them? Am I right, Cara?
Oh, God.
Again, this show needed a female staff writer.
I love this note, by the way.
Yeah. So let's before I say this out loud, let's track Kate's backstory here. The episode starts with her getting her drunk. Now let's maintain the illusion here for a second. Getting her drunk stepdad into bed so he can pass out. And he awkwardly gropes at her and hits on her, and is making very sexual advances towards her. And then she blows up his house with him inside while she rides away on a motorcycle like a badass.
Like you do.
And she doesn't look back at the explosion because cool people don't do that.
And then she goes to see her mom, and she's like, "Mom, whatever happens, don't worry about it. I took care of you, Ma." And her mom's like, "Kate, what did you do?" And she's like, "I love you, Mom." And then she rides off on her motorcycle like a badass. And then she goes to see her real dad, who's in the military and he works at a army recruiting office, where she finds out that the guy she thought was her stepdad, who was making sexual advances on her right before she blew him up, was her real dad.
Well, she already knew, because that's what motivated her to finally kill him, because she tells her dad she tried to find it was a birthday thing for him, and she found out that he'd been stationed abroad during the time when she would have been conceived. So yeah, he couldn't actually be her dad.
And so the guy that she blew up, actual dad, was he knew about this as well. This wasn't like it would have been a surprise to him. I wrote it out later, but the incest subtext that comes up on this show that is sometimes just flat out text.
And she explicitly says in her monologue to Sawyer, who again she thinks might be possibly possessed by the ghost of her dead step/real dad, that part of the reason she struggles with her attraction to Sawyer is she feels like she's attracted to her stepdad. Evangeline Lilly is trying so hard to sell this. I do not blame her for any of what's going on in this episode.
No, God, no. She's doing the best she can or she did the best she could with what she had here. But
yeah, that it's just so messed up.
Oh.
But please read your note.
Well, so finally, During this conversation with the guy who turns out to not be her real father, I wrote down, "Wow, all of Kate's parents hate her," which I think is actually it's what you said out loud, Robert. And I was like, we have to put this in the notes.
Well, because obviously drunken, creepy stepdad. Her mom called the cops on her as soon as she left that diner, and then even her army dad, who seems sympathetic to her, is still just like, I'm gonna have to call them. I'll give you a head start, but I am gonna call them.
I mean, even when her mom was in the hospital, she was like, "Help, my daughter's feared to death. Come get her."
Yeah, I mean,
although I did note in the defense of Kate's mom, Kate took out an insurance policy in her name on the house and then blew up the guy who was known to abuse Kate's mom. So any reasonable cop is going to think that Kate's mom committed murder and insurance fraud. Kate framed her mom for multiple felonies by accident and seems upset that her mom doesn't think that was a favor.
Yeah.
As you also put here, Kate needs to stop having loud, incriminating conversations with people in public places. She had that whole conversation with her mom post blowing up her real dad in a diner. Like, granted, it was the middle of the night, but there were other people eating there, and it's not like they were whispering.
Or like standing off in a corner somewhere.
And
right.
Seems like small town diner, at least somebody there is probably like, oh yeah, that's her kid, right? Huh.
What you talking about? Blowing somebody up.
Was that an envelope full of cash she just slid across the
That's a hell of a tip she just left, considering she didn't order anything. And then later, like in a recruiting office, where one of her not real dad's like army buddies is in the process of recruiting somebody. Not smart stuff.
Yeah. And he explicitly says he knew that Kate wasn't biologically his daughter, but he didn't tell her because he knew Kate would have killed him, which... What kind of 8-year-old was she that he was just like, ooh, yeah, she is gonna... Oh, no, let's keep
There's
that
been
one
some
up.
horror movies about those kids.
Once again, I say, I'm good if we don't have another Kate flashback. I know that we're going to get... This is only the second season. It's only her first flashback episode of the second season. We still have the whole thing where she got married to Nathan Fillion to go.
I was going to say, I have happy memories of that, kind of, because it was that period where it didn't seem clear that Nathan Fillion was going to have much of a career after Firefly, which would have made me very sad. So, like, any time I saw him on TV was good for me. And then, you know, he got, like, multiple, like, 9+ season cop shows, so he's doing fine.
Yeah, and now he's going to be in Superman. Him and his terrible bowl cut. The last thing I wrote down, and then we got a few more to talk about, but we get Walt and the magic computer. After being explicitly warned by the other half of the orientation tape not to use the computer to enter the numbers for anything other than entering the numbers, Michael sits down and gets a message from Walt. Dun, dun, dun.
Dad? Question mark?
Yeah. Hell of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember being so pissed.
Right.
Like, I gotta wait a whole nother week.
Well, that was the magic of the show at this time. Was
yeah.
just like a kick in the nads and then a cut to commercial.
They've got so many pieces on the board right now that they really can just be like, and now Walt's coming back in, or, oh, and who's coming out of the jungle? Like, they've got, the writers are really aware of their toolkit right now, and they're like, even as this show has kind of its ups and downs, they were always really good about knowing when they could bring something in to kick it back into high gear.
Yeah. The Kate overarching plot of the episode kind of muddles out. Like the tailies have like integrated themselves into the beach survivors' way of life now, and Charlie's still like helping take care of that baby, and there's an ongoing thing with the friendship between Echo and Locke, and it all just sort of takes a backseat to how shitty Kate as a person was and is. And Sawyer wakes up.
Gets a moment where he looks around. He's in a bed. There are walls around him, and he logically assumes they've been rescued, and Kate has to actually take him outside and show him the jungle again to convince him that, nope, they're still on the stupid island.
Yeah. Robert, you want to take these last notes here that you put in?
Yeah, just, again, I kind of talked about it earlier with the Locke and Echo relationship, but just the contrast between these two guys as sort of the kind of mysterious men of faith in both of their survivor communities. And it's interesting because Locke, there's no indication that he was particularly religious before he got to the island, but he's the most devout, so to speak, about following the plan of the island and seeking out what its great meaning is. Echo, on the other hand, we know is a priest, or at least we've found out that he's religious. We don't know his full backstory yet, but he seems less interested in buying into the island mystery than Locke does. That when we find out the Bible he found contains the missing fragment of the orientation video, which Locke puts together and they watch. And then when Locke's talking about, how amazing it was that just happened, Echo shuts him down with, look, just don't mistake a coincidence for fate. Which, again, interesting, teasing off sort of their belief systems against each other, and that's going to be something that plays out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, especially since this season opened with Man of Science versus Man of Faith and Jack versus Locke. Now we've got Man of Faith versus Man of Different Faith.
Yeah.
Well, I think I think his whole religion, quote unquote, comes from the fact that he woke up on this island and holy shit, he could walk. I don't think he seemed particularly pious before he got on that plane, but he definitely is now. And, so I think he feels like that's his miracle, whereas Echo's just like, nah, dude, like, no. That's not how that works.
I'd sum up their difference as Echo is a man of faith. Locke is a man of destiny. Mm-hmm. Like, Locke is obsessed with meaning, with the idea that, like, everything has to be on a path going somewhere. And I think, as we'll find out from Echo's story, he's aware that life can be just random and cruel and terrible things can happen. But he's a believer in the idea that individuals can make their own choices and find their own redemptions in that. Whereas Locke is all about the path that he is being taken on.
Mm-hmm. And what was your last one there?
Just usual thing that it's not really clear why the U.S. Marshals are the ones arresting Kate. Again, I get that the Marshal is kind of her cop nemesis, but it's a murder in, I think, Iowa is where she lives, and she's arrested at a bus station while she's buying a ticket. So she's not a fugitive from, like, the court system because she hasn't been arrested prior to that, and she hasn't even crossed state lines, so it's not even a federal thing. But, yeah, the U.S. Marshals are the ones who sweep in to make the arrest. The only possible reason I can think for that is if Wayne was actually in witness protection or something, and they were, which, sure, he seems like the kind of guy who'd be on the run from shady mob folks, but otherwise, yeah, if you murder someone, it's going to be like local police or state cops who arrest you first. The U.S. Marshals don't get involved until a lot later.
Everything you just said was the most Iowa thing I've ever heard. So that's going to ramp up these 3 episodes. Remind me, what's our plan? Oh no, we're doing fondue, right?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Yes.
Bucket of cheese.
Bucket of cheese. Don't know. We've got the 3 of us have 4 more shows coming up this weekend. So I'm not sure exactly when we're going to be able to sit down and watch these episodes, so that we might be on another little bit of a delay, audience. This episode is releasing on Wednesday the 12th. I'm going to try to get one out next week, but we'll see. So we're going to be eating fondue. Somebody remind me why we're doing fondue.
Is it because there's the baptism episode next week?
Are we going to baptize ourselves in cheese?
There are worse things.
Because there's Echo's episode. There's no. Next, let's see. So there's the Michael. Oh, is it because they go? It's the light 'em up scene, right? The fire in the woods. Is that what's next? Dang it, we had this conversation.
We did,
and it was so long ago. So
God,
the 23rd Psalm.
Okay, so that's Echo's episode is up next,
and then the hunting party. So that's a Michael episode. That's the light 'em up from Mr. Friendly, and then fire and water.
Okay,
it's another Charlie episode. That's episode 12. So I think we tenuously put fire and water together as fondue, as melted cheese. You know what? I'm fine with it.
Listen, I will take any excuse I can to make and eat melted cheese.
I'm fine with that.
Baptism by cheese. I love it. I'm here for it. I can't wait. Robert, if people want to reach out to you on social media or follow you on social media, where can they do that at?
Sorry, I just blew directly into the microphone as I was sighing in exasperation. I'm trying to wean myself off of social media with very limited success, but I don't want to encourage anybody to come on there looking for me. It's just bad stuff going on there these days.
That's fair. Cara, what about you?
I hate people.
Yeah. Then okay.
I mean, Yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't. I'm not worth it.
I mean, I'm still on Instagram. I'm still on a lot of social media, but Instagram's the only place that I'm active. You can follow me if you want to. I post pretty frequently Instagram stories that are a mix of whatever current political thing I'm mad at and various offensive memes. That's my au revoir these days. And you can follow me on Instagram at dbhensley. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us to see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming. You can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on. We're going to have to listen to that again.